Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BeamNG.Drive, and today we're going to do a mod that was requested by one of my viewers. Now, I just want to say, though, before we get into this mod is not that good. There's a lot of things where it's cut corners and things weren't done good, or things were done stupid even and bad. It's really not that good of a mod, but it caught one of my viewers' eyes for one of its claims, so I want to kind of talk about it. Because somebody they requested to see a video for it. So this is the M35A2 Racing, and then it has a URL for a website in its name as well, but I'm not going to bother reading that. So anyways, let's go and let that load up. So there's a vehicle. It looks like a real heavy-duty truck, and it got, it looks like super Americanized, right? You got, I want you to fight our wars, blah, 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 USA, bald eagle, America, America, all that kind of crazy, like, generic American patriotic pride stuff, red, white, and blue everywhere. And then the inside, modsgaming.ru, as in the Russian URL address .ru instead of like .us, it's funny. But anyways, this is the car that was requested because it claims to be the most powerful vehicle in BeamNG.Drive ever. I'm not going to dispute that claim, but I'm going to say how dumb it is to have this thing the most powerful vehicle. It has 8 wheels, right? But even with 8 wheels, it doesn't have enough traction to use its power. So, do you see these bars in the bottom right here, where there's a red one and a green one right there? Those bars right there, and the vertical ones, are how much gas I'm hitting and how much brake I'm hitting. This thing has so little traction, you can't even hit the gas more than like 1/10 of the way. Do you see this? We're just spinning our wheels. We're not going to go anywhere because we're just spinning our wheels going nowhere. And then we're going to flip over and break you see the axles break like that all the time. That happens all the time. The wheels just kind of fall off. But you see, we can't go fast with all this power because it has no traction. The car just accelerates so hard and has no traction. That's like if you barely touch the throttle, it's like that. You see it? We're barely touching the throttle, it's just no traction and wheel spin, because the wheels aren't made for all this power. All this guy did was take the normal the other mod that's there's another mod that's like this. They took that mod and they're just doing some zeros and gave it a different skin. That's really all they did. They said engine power, let's throw in 10 zeros to that, and oh look, it's the most powerful vehicle ever. Great, but it's still terribly slow even in a straight line. Plus it can't turn. Watch. You see what happens when you try to turn it? Like if you want a fast car, it's either going to be fast in a straight line or fast on the turns. This one's neither. It just has lots of power. So not only does it have a lack of traction, the gearing is not even modified for this. Like the second you touch the throttle, you're just going to go into 4th gear, watch. Touch the throttle, 4th gear. Because the gearing's not made for all this power, so the gearbox doesn't know what to do, and it just goes into the maximum gear it can. And every time I'm trying to accelerate this, I'm basically hitting the analog sticks on my Xbox controller as light as I can to make it try to not get wheel spin, but it does no matter what. Like you see how little I'm hitting it, and it's just wheel spin, and it's bouncing all over the place. You know why it bounces all over the place? Because the J-beam for this was, well, let's talk about the car this is based off of, because, like I said, all this really does is they took the car they took another car, put an American paint job on it, and then added like 100 zeros to the power to make it the most powerful vehicle ever, which is totally meaningless because you can't even go fast with it. So let's look at the car it was based off of. This was based off of the normal M35A2, which is better, but it does have some flaws about it, because basically what this vehicle is somebody took the J-beam, which basically says like all the statistics from this car. This is a decent mod. This one's a Gravel D-Series 6x6, and this one, like all the stats about it match the vehicle, But what somebody did is they took all the stats from this vehicle and they just plopped it onto the giant old army style vehicle. So everything about it doesn't work well. Like, here's something, for example. It flips over extremely easily, even though something like this would never flip over this easy. So watch. Do you see that? Just like that, we flipped over. Like, all the stats about it don't match the vehicle. Another thing here. Let's pull out this thing right here. We go add, and one of these says the weight, I think. Node beam, this one. So you see this? It says 2,365 kilograms. That's how much it weighs. A real truck of this type, I looked it up, an M35A, whatever the letters were, A2, S, B, C, A, B, Q, L, M, I don't remember. But anyways, a real version weighs 6,000 kilograms. This one weighs 2,000. So it doesn't perform anything like you would expect at all. It's like like I said, they just took the J-beam from the other car and plopped it onto this model. Which is like, yeah, it drives in BeamNG.Drive, but nothing about it's realistic, because what happens is because it weighs so little and stuff, it just doesn't do what you would expect. Yeah, it's durable, but watch what happens when you crash. Watch how hard this thing rebounds, because it's just made to be extremely stiff. Do you see this thing? Look at how much it's rebounding. Now, you could look at my throttle positions and stuff. I lit up on all the throttle the second it, like right before it hit the wall. And do you see how far it's bouncing? Have you ever seen a car get in a collision and then bounce a half mile backwards? Because I sure haven't. That's what this one does. It just bounces like a half mile backwards. Because its setup is not made properly for the vehicle it is. It's just using the stolen parts from the other car. So this is like one of those mods where it's not made well. It's like everything about it was like, it's the minimum to get it into the game, but it's not good. It's like, yeah, it looks fine maybe if you do something stupid where all you do is like crash montages. So like you see a video where it's just all they do is something like this, where they put it into slow-mo, right? Like they just go, oh, like this, and say, and like, right here, they edit the video in, then out. Yeah, right, like that, it might look okay. But the crash montages don't tell you that, oh, look, it rebounds way harder than it should because it's made to be way stiffer than it should because they don't have the proper weight. And it doesn't have the proper weight because the J-beams were stolen from another vehicle which had the proper weight and the correct everything. It's just, you know, same thing for the power. The power is totally unrealistic. Like one of these things would have a big old gigantic diesel engine that has like probably a 20 RPM red line. You know, not obviously really 20, but it would be like a really low red line. This one it gets up to like 5,500 for a red line, which isn't unheard of, but from what I've seen, it's not matching to this vehicle. Because if you look in the inside, you see these dashes and stuff. If you look at the gauges, one of them is a tachometer, one of them is a speedometer. They don't match up, but the tachometer only goes up to 40,000 or 4,000 on this thing. So why is the engine revving to 6,000 almost at times? Why? Because the engine wasn't modified for this vehicle. It's just the same engine in the other one. Like every problem about it is just because it's the same as the other one. Like it tips over because it's too big for how light it is. It weighs like nothing for how big it is, because the car they stole things from is much smaller, you know? I mean, well, maybe not much smaller, but it is significantly smaller, where the difference in size does matter. This one doesn't tip over. You know, you drive this thing and churn it, it doesn't tip over. The only reason it's missing textures, by the way, is because that vehicle like steals the textures from it or something, and it causes that. It normally has textures that are fully perfectly fine. You see, it doesn't tip over or anything, because it might be because it's lower to the ground, it might be just because it has a shorter wheelbase, it might be a bunch of things, but mainly because it was actually made for this car, so this car handles appropriately. I mean, it's not even that much shorter, you know? It's just a small bit shorter, but it makes a difference, right? You know, that foot or two or whatever difference, just it is a difference, man. This one tips over a lot. It's like I said, it's just they use the J-beams from that one, so nothing matches up and acts the way it should. And it's not a good mod, unfortunately. And it goes for the same for the racing one, because like I said, all they did was add some zeros to the power and change the colors. That's it. And, well, you know, usually I have respect for people who do some sort of effort, but based on this, what I've said about the J-beams, I'm really willing to bet that the guy who made this, he didn't make this model. He found it from some other game or some art asset library or something like that and just stole it from that and stole the J-beams from the other thing and slammed them together to make this really quite overall bad car. Now, if he at least made the model or something, I would have respect for the dude. But this is the kind of thing where it's like, I could make this, but I don't, because I don't have I basically don't have the time or the skills to really do something that's good. But I have the time, I have the skills to, and maybe the time to do something that's bad like this, but I wouldn't want to do something that's bad like this because it doesn't show BeamNG.Drive off in like the proper way, because this bad mod makes BeamNG.Drive look weird. Like, that doesn't look like a realistic crash. It just bounced way off. And then it rolls over for no reason. It's like, that just, it's like, really? What is this? So, yeah, I mean, that's really what I wanted to say. It's just like, this is, it's not, it was just made as quickly as possible, it feels like. It was like the minimum amount of effort to actually get it in the game and kind of represent the real vehicle. That's basically what it is. And to prove that it steals the J-beams, by the way, if you hit the parts menu and look at the parts names, the Gravel D-Series, all those say 6x6, six-wheel drive or whatever, hey, guess what? That's what this one says. Because they just took it and renamed the parts to make it, it's like, it's, you know, it's, I mean, really, that's all there is to say about it. It's like, it's not a good mod, and I mean, you could fake it. If all you do is like stupid crash montage, you could fake it and make it look like it's decent. Which is why crash montages are pretty stupid. It's like, well, that doesn't tell you anything about the vehicle itself. You know, it's like making a review for a video game and all it shows is cutscenes. It's like, and you don't say anything. It's like, what does that tell you about the game? Nothing. It can look good under the right circumstances, but it doesn't mean it's a good game or anything. And also, it keeps a lot of the it keeps the one bad trait about the 6x6, which is it's indestructible. This car is also indestructible. But the 6x6, I can forgive that because that's like one small flaw in an overall great vehicle. This one, it's like there's nothing that's really good about it. I mean, what is the front suspension even doing just there? It's just like, it's, you know, the way it crashes isn't the best deformation. I mean, it's okay looking, but then you look inside, it's like, what happened here? It just went, it just crumpled up. Because it's just, you know. Why? Because, well, it's the skeleton is weird some places. You like, you know, it's just the skeleton shape isn't quite. It's just everything about it's just like it's not quite right. It's not quite right here. It's not quite right here. So, like, do you see how detailed the skeleton is in comparison? Or like how much more it matches up, I guess you could say. Like this one, you see on the hood, it has that, right? And then look at the hood on this one. Do you see how many more points of deformation it has to make it look better? And it's just like, you know, I mean, it's really all I gotta say about this thing. It uses the parts from that 6x6, and it's like the minimum amount of effort required to do something. Doesn't make it a good mod, it just makes it a mod. And it's unfortunate, because having a heavy vehicle like this would be fun if it was done properly, but like stuff like just it's just the most ridiculous looking thing when this happens. You get into a car crash and the car rolls back a half mile. That doesn't happen. I mean, sure, you can say, oh, in real life you hit the brakes. Even then, this doesn't happen. I mean, ignoring that fact, I should say, it doesn't happen like that. This doesn't happen. Cars don't just do that. Especially when it's this big and heavy. You know, this thing should weigh 6,000 kilograms. It weighs less than half of that. Alright, so really I've said everything I want to say about this. Both these mods, actually. Basically, there was a good mod, the 6x6, and then there's a really lazy mod that this one is, and then there's a really lazy and dumb mod, which is the Racing Edition. Also, because they steal each other's textures, sometimes the textures just disappear, as you see right there. And it's not even that fast, like I said. It might say like it's going 100 miles per hour, but if you let up on the throttle, it's like we're only going 80. And it says 100 right off the bat, but does that look like 120 to you? No. So that's all I gotta say about these AM Generals. You know, and it's not like they got permission to steal any of the content. You know, it's like, where'd they get the model from? They're not telling you. Where'd they get the drivetrain and all that for? They don't tell you, but I can figure it out. I can figure out that it was stolen from the 6x6 because it says the name in the parts menu. And there's other dumb things where like you see how that driveline just keeps tipping upwards? That's because it's like stretched out or something, I think. It's just like everything about this is just like, ugh. Like one thing is like, it's just I don't know. I'm done talking about this. I've really said all I want to say, so. Until next time, this is WhyBeAre. I'll see ya.